Hello everyone, it's me, Coffee Stitcher. It's Sunday, as per usual, and here I am. How was everybody's week? Awesome, that's good to hear. I had a fairly, and by fairly I mean very productive week this week. I had Monday, of course, off because of holiday, and then I had 2 personal days. So I got a lot of stitching in. I did not get as much on Sunday as I wanted to. I had an accidental encounter with honey, which I'm allergic to, so I spent most of Sunday afternoon down for the count. But that's okay. These things do happen. But I've got lots of progress. I've got a little haul. It's non-traditional haul, but it's haul. Of course, some Q&A, and I'll show you what all I worked on this week and what potentially will be worked on next week. So, moving right along. The first Q&A comes from Amy Loves Toads. She says, I have a question. I've never read the book The Wizard of Oz. I've only seen the movie. Why are there mice on the Wizard of Oz piece from Alan Forest Embroidery? There are mice in the book. After the Deadly Poppy Field sequence, which is not created by the witch, it's just a naturally occurring field, the lion falls asleep at the edge of the field, and Scarecrow and Tin Man can't carry him like they can Dorothy and Toto. And the Tin Man ends up rescuing the Queen of the Field Mice from a bobcat. So they get together with the mice and they build a cart, and the mice help pull the cart so that they can get the lion out of the poppy field. So that's why they're there. And the queen, the mice turn back up in the Land of Oz, but that's kind of it for them. Kim Pembleton. I do try to show the picture of the design with my whips, usually when I'm showing it for the week, what I'm going to be working on. Generally when I don't, it's because either it's a PDF design and I don't have a good way of showing it because of the reflection off of the screen, or because it doesn't actually have a cover picture, so I would be having to show just the pattern itself. So if you don't see one, that's generally why. Stitching happens. I will definitely shoot you an email. I just saw this comment. YouTube's not always the greatest about actually sending emails, so somehow I missed that, so I will shoot you an email. Many more stitching memories. Most of the UFOs, they're UFO'd for one of a couple of reasons. Either A, it's just something I started and discovered I don't really enjoy doing. Like, I've got one of my Disney Dreams Thomas Kincaid kits started, and I'll probably never finish it, because you don't see enough progress quickly enough. Sometimes it was just the fabric I chose wasn't working for me, so a lot of times what I end up doing is I'll actually take out the stitches and just start it over on something new. And then either give the fabric to somebody, or if it's a fabric that I would still use it. Every once in a blue moon, something will get UFO'd because it's 100% just not salvageable. My William Morris one from earlier this year, I somehow got off on my counting and there was no way of fixing it. So it ended up in the trash, and that happens occasionally. However, most of my UFOs, I do tend to, as you saw with Wizard of Oz, or as we saw a while back with Lizzie Kate's Things Unseen, just because I UFO it doesn't mean I'm not going to come back to it. So I haven't had anything that's been a total, complete UFO that I haven't just tossed. So... Sue B, thank you for the recommendation on Ship's Manners, Ada. I will have to look into that. Mary Gordon says, would you kindly explain the cross-stitch challenges that you partake in? I'm in a group, it's called School of Magical Stitches, I think it's just School of Magical Stitches and Literature, but most of us end up shortening it down. Yes, School of Magical Stitches and Literature. We're finishing up. Last year they did a Jane Austen theme. This year it's been the Harry Potter books with challenges and house points. Next year it's going to be a combination of the Disney Villains book series and the Kingdom Keepers book series. And will be sorted into, I think, parks instead of houses. But basically what it is every week on Saturday night, usually Saturday night, sometimes it's early Sunday, the homework assignments for the week are posted. Homework runs from midnight on Monday, midnight Central Standard Time, to 11:59 p.m. on the following Sunday. You have that entire week to get it done in. And they're just different ways of different assignments, and the goal is to try and make your projects fit the assignments, but if you can't, then if you do double the stitch count for the assignment, then you get the points still. Generally. There are sometimes we have exceptions. But it's a lot of fun. It's on Facebook. Like I said, School of Magical Stitches and Literature. They sort houses once a week, usually. Hufflepuff is the best, because we're awesome. Word. So that's the group I'm in. There are other groups out there. There's 24 Hours of Stitching, which I've looked at, but not very closely. There's Semi-Sane Stitchers, which overwhelmed the hell out of me. I applaud anyone in that group who's able to do that, but it was just too much for me. So I'm just going to stick with Magical Stitches. And I think that is it for the Q&A for the week. I'm checking the spam. So, yeah. Alright, so, moving right along, I'm going to show you my little bit of haul this week. I got a whip tracker from So Much to Love. She's the same one that does the bags. So here it is, this is another piece of the Oz fabric from the same line that my project bag is from. But I really like it. It's so cute. There's Munchkin Land, and the Cowardly Lions here, and the Scarecrow, and the apple trees. And they got cut off a little bit, unfortunately, but the Emerald City is part of it, as so is the Wizard's Balloon. And then I got some for pages. So I put... And the pages show, you put your start date, your project bag, if in my case is not applicable, the chart, the fabric, the scissors, which again for me is not applicable because I use the same scissors for everything, and the needle minder, and then any notes. So it's kind of cool. You gotta you have to buy the pages separately, but it'll definitely hold more than just one package. So I just got that to start with. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I like it a lot. Here's the Wizard's Balloon. So, yeah. So that was my little bit of haul this week. Yeah, I did not... There was a brief moment of thinking of maybe going to Stitch and Itch, but I ended up not. I basically sat on my couch and watched Disney Plus, and it was nice. Alright, so, whip-wise, so I worked on, a whole bunch of things. So the first assignment last week was Professor Dumbledore's Will, stitch stitch 300 stitches on a pattern or kit that you were gifted or inherited from another stitcher. So I worked on, where is it? It's around here somewhere. I'm not showing these in the order I actually stitched them in, because... Oh, there it is. Oh, crap, my watch just fell. Shoot. Sorry, y'all, I probably should have been more organized than I actually was. Okay. So I worked on Nevermore. Katie, the Stash Queen, gifted that to me back several years ago. So and I actually did a little more. I actually ended up doing 442 stitches on it, but that's because what I was working on, it was just, there was no way not to. So I finished the graveyard, and I did the border. So the tombstones are aged pewter and tin bucket. And then the border is Deep Forest from Gentle Arts. It's a green. So there it is. The next time I work on it, we'll get to do the letters. There's the full chart. I don't remember if it's in this week's homework or not, because this week's a little different homework-wise. Okay. So the next assignment was to stitch on with skeletons in the closet, meaning secrets you didn't want to share because of the book about Dumbledore that Rita Skeeter wrote. So you did 300 stitches on an actual skeleton, or you can stitch on a fun skeleton in my closet. So mine this week, I worked on it, Pennywise and Georgie. So Sunday, all I did was get the balloon finished. So when I pulled it out to work on this time, I finally got to start in on his eye. That is 300 stitches of varying shades of gray. It's a lot of gray. So it's about half. Well, it's probably about a third, maybe. About a third of the eye done. So here it is in full. So this is G's Christmas present. I did modify the balloon colors a little bit so that it wouldn't be quite so pink. So, which at a distance it looks really good. So officially it sort of fit both ways, but just to play it safe, I came up because the skeleton, it's, your eye socket is a bone. It's part of your skull. So that was classified, but just in case they want to say, well, eyes really aren't, because eyes aren't, when you die, your eyes decompose, or whatever happens to eyes. I don't really know. So I came up with a story. So, because again, literary boyfriend is George Weasley, that when we started dating, I decided that I needed to prove myself as a Marauder 2.0. Because let's face it, Fred and George, to a degree, Lee, are the Marauders 2.0. So I decided that I needed to prove myself, and what better way than to prank Fred? Well, Fred is terrified of clowns, so I unleashed a clown boggart on him, but then he got really mad, so I blamed Ron. I never told anyone until now. Yeah. So that got 319 stitches. Then the next project, which was actually the first one I worked on because I was excited to work on it, was for the Undetectable Extension Charm. You had to stitch on a project that is something you would put in a bag to survive in the elements, because the gang goes on the lam, essentially. So I worked on With the Needle from Lila's Studios, and I worked on this one because there are cows and pumpkins in this particular section, but there's also water, and you need food and water to survive. So that's where I got to. Here's the full design. So I was working in this section here. So I really love this design. So I'm hoping I'll get to use it for more assignments soon, because I do enjoy working on it. There were several things it would have been great for in October, but I was doing Darktober stitching, so I couldn't. And I believe I'm doing this one on Rose Merta from Under the Sea Fabrics. Nevermore is on Chai Tea from Witchelt, and it is just random white that I had in my stash. I don't really remember even where I got it. Alright, so Project 4. Stitch on a project that is something you would consider to be a family heirloom. So I worked on Love Grows Here from Elizabeth's Designs. This is a gift for someone, so hopefully it will be a family heirloom. So 300 stitches, got the majority of the white part of the trellis done. I didn't actually work on this yesterday, and I'll show you why here in a few minutes. So today I'm going to be working on this, and I'm going to finish out the trellis, and then decide if I'm going to work on the other trellis or if I'm going to save that for next week. We shall see. But there we go. And here it... Oh, that's the pattern. There's the design itself. So, it won't take me too long, I don't think, to actually finish the trellis. So, I may go ahead and start the other trellis. Because I got that done all before lunch one morning. So, I can probably finish both trellises today. Badoot. Alright. And then for the bonus points this week, we had to stitch on something for a baby because Tonks and Remus are having a baby. And of course, I would be supplying Teddy a copy of The Wizard of Oz. So I worked on the Leslie Tier Wizard of Oz. So we got basically the top half of the grass is all done. Everything above the center point, grass-wise, is now done. And Dorothy is beginning to be filled in, and I started in on Toto. So, yeah. Alright, so that took care of the homework. Then I worked on extra credit. So this week for extra credit, I worked on, hold up, let me see, stitching extra credit. For stitching on something with the Great Outdoors. And I think I also used this for another project. So that was stitching on the Great Outdoors, and I also used this for and then I used it on stitch on a piece that I started just for Magical Stitches. So I worked on Needles Dance. This was a kit from Summer House Stitchworks, Ink Circles, and Hands On Design. I did the dark blue one. The fabric's darker in person. But I got the top half done. I'm a little anxious because the center point is right along where this bottom pink line is. And I'm a little nervous that maybe that was mismarked, because the bottom part's bigger, I think. So I'm a little anxious that I'm not going to have enough. Unless it's just one of those things where my eyes are playing tricks on me. But there's the full pattern, so that's where I've got to. I've got all that left. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little anxious that maybe this middle point was not marked correctly. But, I mean, based on the pattern, it should be. But I'm afraid it probably wasn't. In fact, I'm looking at this now, and I really think it wasn't. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and a half. So that would be, what, around 70? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't remotely marked correctly. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to figure out. I don't think I've got the space to finish this. All right, well, this is gonna require some investigation, because I don't remember hearing or seeing anything about there being a printing error, but that center was not marked correctly. So we're going to be doing some research, apparently. That sucks, because I really like that piece, and I really don't think there's going to be a way to finish it unless I just cut out half of this somehow. I don't think I can. Okay. Alright, well... Alright, so moving right along, also for Stitch on a piece that you started for Magical Stitches, I stitched on the Hufflepuff Floral Crest and got a page finish. So, and it was 142 stitches. So it's not going to look that much different from the last time you saw it, and again, this is one I don't really have a good cover picture for. But here it is. So it was just the black leaves that I needed to do. So, but basically it looks like this. There's this flower is sort of mirrored, and then that one's up there, and then it's just more of this sort of repeated across. And this is on just some random gray linen that I had in my stash. Alright, and then I did the rest of the week on, which finished up the assignment for something I started for Magical Stitches, as well as a piece that represents Shell Cottage, Gringotts, or the Burrow, as well as a remembrance piece for Hedwig, Lupin, Fred, Tonks, Mad Eye, Snape, or Dobby, and something that I never had to frog. So I use this for a lot, and I've got one more extra credit it'll be used for, but I needed to take a break from it. So it was a new start. It's the Weasley twins from Mandarinx Designs. And it's a PDF, so I'll do my best to show you the actual picture. There we go. So there's the actual design. So because it had to be a memory piece, I stitched on Fred. This is on a spell book from Color and Cotton. And here's Fred. Ton of backstitch. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see the before and after. There are still French knots that have to be done to his eyes, but I tend to do French knots at the end because of Q-snaps. So I'll do those at the very end. But there's the start of Fred. So he was actually a lot of fun to work on and very easy to work on. So overall, very pleased with my first Mandarinx design chart. Definitely will do another one. Alright. Okay, so this week for homework, it's one where they're spinning a wheel. So we get 4 prompts. We have to pick whips for said prompts. Then post our starting point. They're going to spin a wheel and it'll pick one of them. And we're supposed to do 500 stitches on that one. So, Facebook's being stupid. Here we go. So the first one was for Professor Snape's new appointment, Stitch on a Whip that you didn't want to stitch but started anyways. And this one I mostly just picked because I hadn't planned to start it, and I've got a time deadline, which is always something I'm not a big fan of. And it was the Love Grows Here. I enjoy it. I'm liking it. It's going to be beautiful, and I'm very excited to give it to her. But it was not what I had planned to start on. Prompt 2, for stealing the missing locket back from Dolores Umbridge, stitch on something you'd steal for yourself, and I'm going to use Fred and George for that, because I would totally steal George's sweater. For all the narrow escapes your classmates have had, stitch on a design that shows a place you would escape to. So I'm doing put the Leslie to your Wizard of Oz. And then for all the apparition, and this is actually originally it was apparition, I think, but it was supposed to be for Bathilda Bagshot, not being able to talk. It was stitch on a piece that does not make a sound, so I'm choosing the Hufflepuff floral crest, because it's just flowers and they don't talk or make a noise. So, yes. So that's the homework for the week. So, anyhow, that's about it for me. I guess I'm going to go do some research on Needle's Dance and see if anybody listed a correction. And I'll see you all next week.